Mr. Abyan Khan, and you are watching History with Abyan. Today, in our first episode of History, we will talk about the ever first scientist of the world. His name was Aristotle. Today, we will study that who was Aristotle and what are his contributions. So, who was Aristotle? Aristotle was a Greek philosopher and polymath during classical period in ancient Greece. Aristotle was born in the city of Macedonia, in Arabic known as Macedonia, in northern Greece in 384 BC. Aristotle's father's name was Nicomachus, and by profession his father was court physician to King Amyntas II of Macedon. After death of Aristotle's father, a guardian named Proxenus guarded him and sent him to the Plato's Academy at the age of 17. Aristotle was 17 years old when he joined the Plato's Academy at 347 before Christ. Aristotle was born in 384 before Christ. So his age was at that time just 17 years. When Plato died in 347 before Christ, Aristotle, aged 37, was not appointed to succeed him due to Plato's nephew Speusippus, who always contraindicated Aristotle, compelling Aristotle to leave Athens. And compellingly, Aristotle left Athens and he migrated to the Minor Asia, where he married his first wife, who was the niece of the ruler at that time in Mysia. In later life, Aristotle married a second time a woman named Periples, who bore him a son, and his name was Nicomachus, at the name of Aristotle's father. Aristotle contribution. Let's talk about the Aristotle contribution. Aristotle has a lot of contributions to the modern science and modern biology because he gave the footprints for the science. At that time, no one was familiar that what is science and how actually the nature works. But due to the crucial and curious nature of Aristotle, he thought about the nature and how the nature works. So let's talk about the Aristotle contribution. Aristotle's lectures were collected into nearly 150 volumes and represented an encyclopedia of the knowledge of his day. Unfortunately, more of the writings have disappeared and less of them survived, and that less of them gave birth to the modern science. Aristotle's most important work was on biology. He also dealt with logic, metaphysics, psychology, meteorology, politics, literary criticism, poetry, drama, and ethics. He was the first to treat systematically the fields of botany, zoology, anatomy, embryology, and physiology. Aristotle's contribution in medicine, it was his natural work relating to the non-living things. Now he was not a doctor. But he did medicine research more immensely and more enhancedly, because at that time no one was familiar with biology and physics, as I told earlier. So Aristotle was not a doctor, but his contributions to medicines are immense. Being unable to study the internal structure of the human body, Aristotle turned to study animals, founding the science of comparative anatomy. He is said to have dissected over 50 different species, and much improvely, his embryological study was on the chick's embryo. He used the chick embryo describing, among other observations, as the first sign of the embryo, the early development of the heart and great vessels, the beating of the embryo's heart, and the differences between arteries and veins. Now, just think about this, that at that time he didn't have any technology, any physical thing that he might dissect or see inside the anatomy of human, but he did the comparative anatomy and compared the similar organs of different species with his research. Now, talking about the terms I used in my lecture at the start, which many people are not familiar with, so we will try to evaluate that terms. I used the word metaphysics. Actually, many people will misconcept it as physics, but it's not physics. It's actually philosophy. Metaphysics is a philosophy. Metaphysics is the branch of philosophy that deals with the first principles of things and abstract concepts such as being, knowing, identity, time, and space. We consider different aspects, that is, abstract concepts. And I used the word psychology. Many people will know and many people will not. But psychology is the study of psychiatry and psychic nature of human. Metrology, the study of weathers. Politics, the study of political system. And I used the word literary criticism. Literary criticism is the comparison, analysis, interpretation, and evaluation of works of literature. Actually, it is the work of literature. Literary criticism is the work of literature by comparison, analysis, interpretation, and evaluation. As I used the word Athens too, so we will discuss it after the legend death. Let's talk about the Aristotle. I will call him the legend because he was the legend. At that time, no one knows that actually what is science. Everyone was just running after his basic needs. But Aristotle was the one that he didn't run for the basic needs. He thought about the nature. He thought about science. He thought about the life. And he thought about the correlation of living things and non-living things, that how living things and non-living things are actually interconnected. So yeah, he was the legend, Aristotle the legend. So Aristotle the legend death. When news of Alexander death in Babylon reached Athens in 323 BC, Aristotle, fearing an anti-Macedonian reaction, withdrew from Athens to Chalcis in Euboea. Euboea was his mother's hometown. And there, the following year, 322 before Christ, he died due to stomach illness. But just think about the Alexander's death and Aristotle leaving Macedonia. How difficult at that time of empires, at that time emperors. When one emperor died, a rebellion will come out. A rebellion got out. So, from the fear of that rebellion and anti-Macedonian reaction, he left Athens. And he left Athens at 322 BC. And at that 322 BC, he died. The legend, one of the legend, died at 322 BC, who talk about physics, who talk about astronomy, who talk about physics, biology, metaphysics, and psychology. He was multi-talented, therefore I am calling him the legend. So let's talk about the Athens. I used the word Athens. Now many people will not know that who were Athens. Actually, Athens was the largest and most influential of the Greek city-states. City-states. At that time, no such states existed. Only a city was a state, and that state will known as city states. So it had many fine buildings in Athens, and it was named Athena after Athena, the word Athens come place. So Athens were the largest and influential Greek. Athena were their goddess, and the goddess of wisdom and warfare. When these people go for war or go for something procedural war, they pray and worship to Athena for their help. So Athenians are also the footprints that they invented democracy. Actually, at that time, no democratic structure exists. But look at the footprints of Athena and their talent that they invented a new governmental structure called democracy. And that democracy was not for that they will have to elect their ruler, they will have to elect their emperor, but for the war, because many people got frustrated about war, that they don't want war. Actually, no one wants war. Everyone wants peace. So they also didn't want war. So the emperor decided to make a democratic structure to express many opinions about whether they will go for war or not. So for that purpose, they made that democracy, which is now the democracy or democratic structure for the governmental or the presidential's status. So it was just a short and evaluated brief intro of Aristotle the Great in our first episode ever, and we will try to cover more different aspects and different historical periods of different time from Aristotle to 2022, the scientists, the historical events, and the historical periods from that time. So also a PDF will also be included in the description link at every video, and from there you can just get the short brief PDF for your ease. Thank you for watching, and like, subscribe, and share the video in order to get more and more informations about history with the PDF along. Nice to meet you. Take care. Stay blessed.